The cost of living is bonkers. Let's kick things off with the big one: money, money, money. The cost of living in the UK is just insane. It feels like every time you go to the grocery store, your bill is higher and you're buying less. Remember when you could grab a basket of groceries for under £50? Those days are long gone. Now you're lucky if you can get a week's worth of basics for that price. We are talking about pasta, tinned tomatoes, and some bread. Rent? Forget about it. Unless you're cool with living in a shoebox the size of your average toilet cubicle or sharing a flat with 10 other people where you can hear your neighbor flush, prepare to sell a kidney, or maybe both. And it's not just London anymore. Even smaller cities and towns are getting ridiculously pricey. Are property prices in Birmingham quickly catching up to the capital? I saw a YouTube video that broke down the monthly costs for a single person living in Manchester. And let's just say maybe consider moving to Southeast Asia, or maybe becoming a digital nomad and working from a beach somewhere. Everything from utilities, gas, electricity, and water, to transportation, trains, buses, and petrol, is burning a massive hole in our pockets. The energy bills are outrageous, and the government isn't doing enough to help the ordinary person. It's like everyone is expected to just suck it up. Is living in the UK sustainable in 2025? I'm really starting to question whether it's offering value for money when you consider the cost of living crisis compared to the median wage. It's hard not to feel like you're constantly struggling just to stay afloat. Wages ain't keeping up, so prices are soaring faster than a rocket ship to the moon. But what about paychecks? Yeah, not so much. Wage growth is lagging behind the cost of living by a wide margin, which means we're all working harder and longer hours just to afford less. It's like running on a treadmill that's constantly speeding up, and you are starting to get shin splints and feel like you are going to throw up. You think you are making progress, but in reality, you are going nowhere. There's a real worry that living standards are going to stagnate or even decline, especially for those who are already struggling. I saw a report that suggested the poorest 10% of the population might see their disposable income drop by a significant percentage this year. How are these people meant to cope? Time to start a side hustle selling, I don't know, knitted tea cozies, personalized dog sweaters, or maybe even offering your services as a professional napper because, frankly, we're all exhausted. It's frustrating to feel like you're working harder than ever and still struggling to make ends meet. A fair day's pay for a fair day's work should be the standard, not the exception. And it should be enough to live comfortably and not have to worry about choosing between heating and eating. The housing crisis is a joke, a bad one. Oh, the housing crisis. Where do I even begin? It's not just that housing is incredibly expensive, it's a full-blown, multi-layered crisis with no end in sight. Finding a decent place to live that doesn't require you to remortgage your soul is like winning the lottery. But instead of money, you get a damp room with questionable plumbing and a landlord who seems to actively avoid fixing anything. A record number of people are homeless, and families are stuck in temporary housing, often in conditions that are frankly unacceptable. The social housing waiting lists are miles long, and the number of affordable homes being built is nowhere near enough to meet the demand. London is particularly bad, with insane rental costs pushing people into poverty and forcing them to move further and further out of the city, which then creates even more pressure on the public transport system. We have nurses and teachers who can't afford to live anywhere near the hospitals and schools where they work. It's a ridiculous situation. The weather is depressing. Shocker. Okay, this is a classic complaint about the UK, but it's still a valid point, and one that deserves to be reiterated. The weather in the UK can be downright depressing. It isn't just that it rains a lot, it's the constant gray skies, the perpetual dampness, and the general lack of sunshine that can really get you down. I swear, many have almost forgotten what the sun looks like. I find myself squinting whenever the clouds finally part, trying to remember what that bright yellow orb in the sky is. Seasonal affective disorder, SAD, is a very real thing, people. The lack of sunlight can affect your mood, your energy levels, and your overall well-being. It's no wonder so many Brits flock to sunny destinations like Spain and Greece every chance they get. They're all desperately seeking a bit of vitamin D. Time to invest in a good sad lamp, book a tropical vacation, or maybe just move to a sunnier country altogether. I'm only half joking. Public transport, a love-hate relationship. The UK has a pretty extensive public transport system, which is great in theory, especially when you consider the environmental impact of driving everywhere. But in practice, delays, cancellations, strikes, and eye-watering fares make it a love-hate relationship that leans heavily towards hate. You love that it exists in principle, but you absolutely hate actually using it. The trains are constantly delayed due to leaves on the line or signal failures, which seem to occur with alarming regularity. And don't even get me started on the cost of train tickets. You could probably fly to another country for the same price as a return ticket from London to Manchester. The buses are often overcrowded and unreliable, and the London Underground is a sweaty, claustrophobic nightmare during peak hours. And don't even think about trying to get a seat. You'll be lucky if you can find a space to stand without being squashed against a stranger like sardines. The NHS is on life support. The National Health Service, NHS, is a wonderful idea in theory. Free healthcare for everyone at the point of use. But sadly, it's currently under immense pressure and struggling to cope with the demands placed upon it. Waiting times for appointments, procedures, and even emergency care are through the roof. Hospitals are overcrowded, and ambulances are often delayed due to a lack of available beds. The staff are absolutely amazing and work incredibly hard, often going above and beyond to provide the best possible care, but they're stretched thin, overworked, and underpaid. It's a truly scary situation when you can't rely on timely health care. Some people wait months for routine appointments and procedures, so pitch a tent and wait your turn. Petty crime, the new normal? Let's talk about something that's been grinding people's gears lately, the rise in petty crime. Now, I'm not saying the UK has turned into some dystopian crime-ridden wasteland, but there's definitely been an uptick in the kind of low-level offenses that make daily life just that bit more frustrating. I'm talking about bike thefts, shoplifting, car break-ins, and the like. It feels like every other day we're hearing about someone's phone being snatched right out of their hands or a parcel being nicked from their doorstep. And don't even get me started on the state of some city centers after dark. It's like the purge, but with more drunk people and fewer masks. The police seem to be stretched thin, often unable to respond to these minor incidents. I put minor in air quotes because while they might not be headline-grabbing crimes, they have a real impact on people's lives and their sense of security. Some people have stopped cycling to work because their bikes keep getting stolen, and others who are afraid to use their phones in public. It's changing the way we live our daily lives, and not for the better. And let's not forget about the impact on local businesses. Shoplifting has become such a problem that some stores are having to lock up everyday items like cheese and meat. Imagine having to ask a staff member to unlock a cabinet so you can grab a block of cheddar. It's ridiculous, but it's the reality many shops are facing to protect their stock and stay afloat. Illegal immigration, a hot potato. All right, let's wade into some choppy waters here and talk about illegal immigration. Now, this is a sensitive topic, and I want to approach it carefully because it's easy to fall into rhetoric or oversimplification. The fact is, illegal immigration has become a major political and social issue in the UK, and it's causing a lot of tension and debate. On one hand, we have the human aspect. Many of these people are fleeing terrible situations. War, persecution, extreme poverty. They're risking their lives crossing the channel in dinghies, and it's hard not to feel sympathy for their plight. On the other hand, there's the strain it puts on the already stretched public services, the security concerns, and the challenge of integrating large numbers of people into communities. The government seems to be struggling to get a handle on the situation. We've seen various policies proposed, from the Rwanda plan to increased patrols in the channel, but nothing seems to be making a significant dent in the numbers. It's creating a sense of frustration among many people who feel that the country's borders aren't secure. There's also the impact on local communities to consider. Some towns and cities are feeling the pressure of having to accommodate and support large numbers of asylum seekers, often without adequate resources or support from the central government. It's leading to tensions and, in some cases, the rise of far-right sentiment, which is worrying. At the same time, we can't ignore the positive contributions that many immigrants, including those who may have entered illegally but have since regularized their status, make to our society and economy. They often work in key sectors like healthcare, agriculture, and hospitality. Political chaos. Let's just say the political situation in the UK has been turbulent, unpredictable, and frankly, exhausting. It feels like we've had more prime ministers than hot dinners in the last few years, each with their own policies and priorities, leaving the country in a state of constant change, like weather near the ocean. Constant changes and uncertainty make it hard to feel like things are stable or that there is any kind of long-term vision for the future. It is impossible to make long-term financial plans. I won't say much more, as I don't want to get too overtly political and risk alienating half of my audience, but it's safe to say that the political climate has added to the general sense of unease and uncertainty in the country. Click the like button, subscribe, and stay awesome.